Thanks so much for downloading the deadline calculator. I'm going to walk you through what the spreadsheet looks like and how to use it well. This document was created in Numbers, and so anytime you open up a new document from Numbers that originated there into another piece of software, it's going to give you this extra page. So if you're opening this in Excel or in Google Docs, which I'm doing right now to show you the overview, you'll get this screen or this tab. You can go ahead and delete the tab if you want to. Everything works in terms of formulas. Some of the formatting may change a little bit, but not the end of the world. So this is the document itself, and you can see I've added a bunch of different categories depending on the type of work that you are looking to accomplish. So you have print pieces, video pieces, web app support, a Christmas teaching series in this example, and then environment projects. These would be like external things like signage, photo booth design, that kind of thing. Your ministry context is going to determine what these things are. So this is just a wide variety of examples so that you can have things to plug and play. The reason that each of these kind of sections needs to exist is because the deadlines change a lot between your types of projects. So design work, for example, is usually a lot faster than video work. And so it makes it easier to segment out these different sections so that you don't have to worry about confusing math or copying a cell and putting the wrong formula in and then throwing off all your deadlines. So how it works is pretty straightforward. You start here. There's a tab that kind of talks through this as well. I just know that people learn differently. And so if you're looking at this and you're like, I see the tab and I've read it and I understand how the Excel sheet works or the document works, fantastic. This is just for those that are a little bit more visual in their learning style. So the first thing here is you start with this. You start with when you're promoting the event. And so in the case of Christmas, many churches will do Christmas promotion right after Thanksgiving. And so that's this date. I'm playing with 2024 here. So November 24th, 2024. That is the distribution of the promotion materials. It's going to be stuffed in the bulletins. It's going to be handed out as people walk into church. It's a mailer goes out, whatever it is, whatever that initial promotion is, the very first one, that's what that date needs to be. And so I'm going to change it here. Let's change it to, let's do this one right here, December 1st. You'll see what happened is every other date changed in the process. So that's how the document works. So let's say you're in a meeting and they say, hey, I need to know when the deadline is for all of the content that I give you. Well, when I look here, the deadline for this content is going to be October 17th. October 17th, we're talking about December. I don't understand. What happened to all the other, that's the conversation usually. Well, the reason why is because you're going to want the promotion in your hands before you promote it. And so there's going to be margin there because maybe the printer misses a deadline. You want to have some padding there. It doesn't have to be as much as in the formula, but you need some. And then also you're going to need to send the files to print at some point. And then you're going to need to design it at some point and get approvals and all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, that's when you need it so that you have enough time for all of those different pieces to happen. So I'm going to break down what's going on in this formula. I'm going to go to the next sheet just so you can see it in action. So again, you start here. That's step one. When does the promotion start? When we look at the promotions in hand, each piece of software is going to show the formula a little bit differently. The example that I have right here, all of this is based on how Numbers presents the example, but they're very similar. So the reason I wanted to show this one on Google Sheets is because it's a little bit different. So you'll see the formula up here, equals weekday, and then there's the parentheses, E4, comma, minus 7. Okay, so what this breaks down to be is a workday filter. What that does is that says Monday through Friday, those are your days of execution. So when it's counting days, it's not counting the weekend. See, one of the problems that we run into when we just look at the calendar is we just like say, oh, there's 7 days. But think about when you're buying a product, they say business days. That's when shipping counts. If I order something on Amazon on Saturday afternoon, shipping typically doesn't happen on Sunday. It doesn't start triggering my days until Monday. And so we want to make sure we account for those days off because I don't want you working 7 days a week. I don't think you want you working 7 days a week. So that's the reasoning behind limiting it by workday. And then you're going to be looking at E4. So what's going to happen here is this cell is going to look at this cell over here. And it's going to say, well, what's the date that you have here? We want to work off of that date. And then we want to pull in minus however many days you think it's going to take. So in this instance, I want 7 days. So I want to get in the mail the final postcards 7 days before we're going to distribute them. In my head, the reason I want that is because we had a stuffing team that would come in and they would fill all the bulletins with the postcards or whatever promotions we had going on that week. So I want to allow a full week of time so that I leave margin for one, printer delays or shipping delays, and then also account for the fact that I have my stuffer team coming in and they're going to be needing the physical product earlier than the actual promotion in order to put it into the programs or the bulletins. You can put that into your document as a deadline if you want to. I didn't want to really micromanage it. So I just knew 7 days was going to be enough. And so that's the number that I put in here. So now let's go to the next frame. You'll see, or the next cell, you'll see workday, you'll see D4. So now it's looking again, back one cell. And then you're going to see the number is minus 10. So I'm going to allot 10 days to the printing process. And you're probably thinking, if you've ever sent anything to print, it doesn't take 10 days to get stuff to the printer. You're right, it doesn't. What I tend to do is I tend to add a little bit of margin for two reasons. The first, there are unexpected delays, so that's a reality. And then the second, well, maybe there's more than two, there are errors. So I've had it where I get a proof back. I'm like, oh man, there's a typo on this. We can't send this to print. We need to change the file. Or there's some problem that happens in the production. The file that I sent over wasn't set up right. Okay, that's going to eat up a day or two. And then there's the production, which is usually 2 to 3 days, depends on the type of printer that you're using. If it's a custom piece, you'll want to add more time because printing actually takes longer than that. If it's your standard, this is sort of a common project that they do, you probably don't need that much time. If it's a workbook, a custom deck of cards, we've done playing cards that are memory verses, it all takes more time. And so I leave that, in this case, the 10-day window, because I want to make sure that I account for those errors and I account for delays. And then the last frame here, the last cell, you can tell I use spreadsheets a lot. The last cell here is the gap between final content to the communications team and then being able to send it to print. So you see this one leads to this one. And then this is the number of days that I think it'll take from content coming to comm to getting the files out to print. And so I've put 15 days here. Now that equates to 3 weeks. And so that's why we have an October 10th deadline for a project that's not due really. That's not, that's the problem is our conversations we don't promote it until the 24th. So it's not due till then, but a lot of work needs to go into that. And so for Christmas in particular, and that's really this spreadsheet is a tool for these major projects. You're still going to have to come up with a theme. It's not like you have the postcard and you just execute and the theme's all done and all the details are done, the service times are done. You need to leave margin for those things to get decided as well, because they're going to be final pieces that are a part of the project that you're trying to get accomplished. So I put 15 there. So what you do now is as you go back to this page or this tab, you're now going to see what exactly are all of the different things that I need to create. Videos is a great example. It's a totally different animal. Filming, I put 20 days because often for Christmas, we would go really big and we would have a totally custom filming. We'd go find a ranch or a large property and we'd film a little mini movie for a kid's moment. Those are the types of things that we did for Christmas that were so far outside of the normal scope that it was hard to make deadlines reasonably. And so enter the deadline calculator. So that's how it works. And then you can also add some notes. Video is an interesting one, at least it was in our context. We needed the video done for run through. And so the run through was actually December 12th for us. And so where we ran into some problems early in, earlier years was we kept thinking that we needed these final projects by Christmas Eve service. We didn't. We actually needed it 2 weeks prior so that we could have a tech rehearsal with all of the elements. Everything that we needed was included in that, so they could see it. If they run it on the screens and they say, this isn't working, it doesn't look good, there's something wrong with the way that it's optimized for the auditorium, we needed time to fix that. And so 20 days was what we put there for that piece of execution. And so You go through here now and you bring in the right people to the conversation. In the case of video, maybe there's only one guy who does it all. I don't know, or one gal. But if you have a team, you're going to want to bring in the people that need to speak to these different elements so that they can understand what they're committing to, and you can understand what needs to go into the calculator for their deadlines to be set correctly. The last thing that I would encourage you to do is in the context of padding those dates a little bit at each step in the process gives you margin for when people miss a deadline. Because that's the other reality, is that people don't always hit the deadlines that we've established for them. And so this gives you the ability to say, you know what, I can be gracious because I built in a little bit of margin in the design phase. I built in a little bit of margin in the print phase. I built in a little bit of margin. I don't want Christmas to have to be done in June. That's too much margin. But I do want to account for a little bit of margin so that it puts me in a position to be gracious, not a position to be this like relentless, deadline jerk, basically. So hopefully that's helpful. If you have any questions about this, or if something's not working right, let me know. Contact me on the forum on the page. I'd be more than happy to walk you through it.